Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome in. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. Give it a few minutes to let everybody in. We'll go over kind of some house rules, but it's glad to see everybody joining us today. We've got a really great session here. We're going to learn a little bit about CMS, which we'll give you a little bit of intro to here in a minute. Feel free to throw in the chat where you're calling in from, name of your agency. I want to make sure we make those connections if we can. I see a couple of familiar faces in already, but welcome, welcome. Brazil, Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, we've got two from Brazil, it looks like. Cleveland, France. Good morning from Tel Aviv, Missouri. Wow, we've got a really wide variety of partners joining us. France, amazing. I got a couple from France, it looks like. India, Florida, Las Vegas, UK. Wow, this is great. This is awesome to see everybody from kind of all over the world. Wisconsin, Northern Ireland, love that. Yeah, our own Vicky is Brazilian, so got some good representation here. Jersey, UK. Let's see here. UK, Sweden, Brazil, France, Tennessee, Italy. Wow, amazing. Glad to see everybody joining us today. Hey, David, Curious Fish. Yeah, amazing. We're gonna give it about another minute, and then we're gonna get started. We'll have a session run through with Vicky. We are going to be building today. So what I would do is I would pop open your editor. We're going to have a site that we're going to be recreating today using CMS. We'll share a template of that just so that you have some of the resources to be able to build alongside us. Again, we want to make sure that this session is as valuable as possible. Vicky, looks like we're getting up there in terms of our attendees. So I'm thinking I don't want to wait too long, but maybe what we can do is we can get into just some introductions here, and then if people join us as they join us, they can hop in. Maybe we kick it off. I know we've got about an hour, hour and a half for this session. Again, we will have Q&A towards the end. Just to make sure everyone's questions are answered. Like I said, we want to make sure this is as valuable as possible to you as our wonderful partners joining from all over the world. So I guess I'll kick it off today. We are learning about maximizing our CMS foundations with Vicky, our senior design advisor. And we also have Courtney as well here, able to help man some of the questions through Q&A. On that point, we do have our Q&A function enabled, so please feel free to use that when it comes to asking questions that will go directly to our team. We want to make sure, again, we can answer all those questions during this session. Feel free to use the chat to connect, to maybe say hey to a friendly face. But please make sure you are using the Q&A section section there to make sure your questions get answered. So with that, I think we will kick it off. Vicky, I'll be passing it over to you, and we'll get rolling.
Thank you, Connor, for the introduction. Nice to see everybody. I'm glad to see we have a lot of Brazilians in the chat and all sorts of different locations as well. So France, Italy, all over the place. Glad to have you guys together. Today, we're going to talk about CMS. So this is essentially what we're going to cover this morning. We're going to cover what is Wix CMS. We're going to learn a little bit about collections, data sets, dynamic pages, how to structure your site using multi-reference fields. And we're also going to cover how to create category pages using input fields. And enough talking, let's go ahead and build something. So let's start with the basics and understanding exactly what Wix CMS is. So Wix CMS is all about a content manager system that is powerful tool that is going to help you manage and filter content on data-heavy sites. It's going to help you secure your design whenever you're using single collections. You can do that. You can create unlimited dynamic pages and access some of the Wix applications collections to create a site fast and easy. So there are three main pieces that we need to know for using CMS. The first one, it's going to work kind of like on the back end, essentially on the dashboard area, which is what we call the collections. The collections are a spreadsheet where you're going to have all your data. On the front end, we can either work with dynamic or static pages, but part of the CMS package, it's the dynamic pages. And those are essentially pages that are going to stay with the same layout, and you're going to be able to bind data into those pages. So you don't need to build 100 static pages. You can just have data on the back end, connect to a dynamic page, keep the same layout, and create hundreds of pages with actually just one dynamic page. And we have the middleman. The middleman is the data set. It's essentially binding both worlds. So you have the collections on one end, you have your dynamic pages on the front end, and you need to create that data binding, that connection between both worlds. So this is where the data set is going to come in. Each data set can only connect to one collection at a time. So we're going to learn how to use multiple data sets today in this session. So essentially, this is how the pieces are going to relate. Backend, middleman, front end. And enough talking, let's start building. I'm going to share with you guys, and Connor, if you want to put it on the chat, we have a template that we're going to be using today. So if you access Wix CMS.studio, you should be able to see this site right here. This is essentially a template that we're going to be using. I'll show you how to install and get that template to use. So you can use the top menu over here on this area, and you can download both the assets that we're going to be using for this session and also downloading the template itself. Just while you guys do this, go ahead, open your account, download the assets, download the template. I'm going to give you a little tour of what this site is all about. So as you guys can see, it's a site for yacht charters. You will see here that we have the different destinations that we can access. We're going to have a little filter area in here where we can see all the different vessels that we can have access to. We'll be able to load more vessels and see more options. We can filter them by location and see the vessels that we have available on that location. To get to the template, go to the top menu right here and make sure you download that template. So over here, we'll have destinations, and this is where we're going to start building some site structure in here. We want to see the vessels, but we also want to see the destination, locations, and the vessels. So starting with the destinations, you guys will notice that I have, for example, here, exotic Asia voyages. This is going to bring me into quick refresh. My internet not so quick. We're going to have over here the Asian voyages destination page. Inside over here, I'm going to have all the locations that are related to this destination. So I have Maldives, Indonesia, Thailand. Once I go into a specific location, I'll be able to jump into that location page and see the vessels that are related to that location. Not only this, we'll also have over here on this members area, a little area where we can kind of like list new vessels that we want to add into that collection. We'll be able to view the vessels that we have already added, and we'll also be able to edit those vessels, all done through the site externally. You don't need to necessarily access the dashboard to make those changes. So we are giving kind of like a user area where they can make all those changes into those collections. So essentially, this is what we're going to be building. I hope you guys already got the templates. And you'll see that on the templates right here, we already have the assets. So if you guys jump into the assets area, you will see the CMS webinar assets. And over here, we're going to have some of the elements that we're going to use to wrap up building this entire site. You'll also notice right here that under the pages, for now, I only have my home page and I don't have any of those pages I just showed you. So I don't have destinations, I don't have locations. And for the members area, just to make everything easier, I did create some elements for it, but you see that your list and your view are empty essentially. And the edit your vessels already has some content in there. So we're going to start working, building the dynamic pages, using the collections and binding all that data to quickly create a lot of pages for this site with a couple of clicks. So let's get started with learning a little bit more about the collections. So whenever you guys want to use CMS on this specific template, we already have it installed. But whenever you guys want to start using it, you see over here this quick shortcut where you can access CMS and add it into your site. And then you'll see here a couple of options on how to start using CMS. So we do have what we call the presets. And presets are essentially collections that are already built with some data. You'll notice that the presets have the option of adding not only the collection, but the dynamic pages related to it. So I can automatically add a list and an item page. And what is list and item page, Vicky? List is essentially showing the collection from top to bottom, right? All the data that you have on the collection. It's kind of like an index. And when you're talking about item page, this is reading a specific line of your collection, meaning that the minute I add more data here, I have more of those dynamic item pages automatically. So those are the presets. We can also create a collection, and we have a few different ways of creating a collection. You can start by importing a CSV file. So if you already have a spreadsheet with all that information, you want to bring it into CMS, you can easily just put that, you can download a template for that CSV, match it so you can import nicely. You can also start from scratch, and starting from scratch is going to allow you to work with two different types of collections. One, multiple item collection, which is usually what we use for dynamic pages. But what a lot of people never use is the single item collection. So if you haven't heard of this, do a little search. You see that this is a perfect collection for when you want to bind data to static pages, because that can also be done. Today, we're going to be working with multiple item collections. And the last way of adding data into your site is by using the AI. And this is what we're going to use today to help us implement some more collections. Before I do that, just want to show you guys quickly here that we already have a couple of collections built in. So I do have all my vessels already set up because I didn't want to make you guys waste time and just add every single vessel, every single location. So I already did that for you guys. So we see here that we have a collection full of different vessels. And I also have a collection for locations. So essentially what we need is the destination, right? We need to create the destinations and associate them to the locations afterwards. So let's get back into creating a new collection. So going into the CMS, create collection. Let's use the create with AI today. And what I'm going to type in here is just the basics to create like a yacht destination rental, the rental destination. So let's type yacht rental destinations. And I need 3 fields essentially: the title of that destination, a description of it, and a nice image to go along with a collection. So let's go ahead and type destination title, description, and image. And let's hit next and see what the collection is going to build for us. You see here, it's kind of like building based on what I requested. And the good thing about using the AI is that you can generate the collection, essentially just the structure, fully empty, or you can go ahead and generate some content for it. In this case, I'm going to generate content just so I can get some nice images. Let's hope it kind of like matches the vibes of the locations and vessels. It doesn't really, so I'm going to change a little bit here so we can get something more specific. We can do something like Mediterranean. We can do here exotic, voyages, Caribbean, can be tropical, tours. I'm gonna delete one and I'm gonna keep one for the adventure. And you see that it has already some images, it has some descriptions. You can also replace the image if you need to. If you want to put something more specific, feel free to add that information. But what I want to show you here is how the collection works and what are the features that we have inside of the collections. So let's go ahead and first check how we can kind of like look and add and do everything inside of the collection. So first things first, we already have some data. You will be able to sort the information that you have in here. So maybe I want to sort by A to Z. I can go ahead and do that. You can also filter information. Maybe you only want to show stuff that contains a certain term, or maybe that doesn't, or the cells that are empty or not empty. You can create filters for this collection as well. And let's say, for example, that you are creating your own order of the elements. You can mirror that on the site if you need to. Over here, we can manage the fields that we have. So you'll notice that automatically the system creates some specific fields. You'll see over here the owner field. This is a unique ID that every person adding information into that collection is going to have. And you can either show or hide the data that you want or you don't want. You can also search information. And one thing I love about the views, it's, let's say that you have a client and they're not super secure on how to use a spreadsheet. Maybe they are kind of like not super into computers. You can create a client view. And on this client view, instead of displaying everything at table, I can display something such as list or even gallery, which is one of my favorites. And again, you can use the manage fields to decide what information you're going to display on those cards. And this is going to make it very easy for somebody to add a new item, as they can just click here and fill something that looks exactly like a form. Another cool detail that you will be able to see over here on the table is that, let's say you want to help your client fill out and make sure that he doesn't make a mess. You know how clients are when they get a hold of our sites. You can add it over here. And you see this help text optional. So maybe you want to give them some structures on how they can add the image. Maybe it's a 800 by 800 JPEG only. And you can save that information there. And whenever they are ready to add a new item, you see that this information is going to pop up on each column that you created with extra help text to make sure that your client, whenever he's getting that information, can fill out super nicely. Cool. So we talked a little bit about collections. You also see over here on the top that we have options of importing items, exporting items, and we have a few important things in here. One is going to be collection settings. This is how you can control item visibility. So maybe you have a collection, but you don't necessarily want to show everything at once. Maybe you want to release a new vessel every week or something like this. You can actually control item visibility, and this is going to allow you to schedule the time you want to release that. So you don't necessarily need to be going on Content Manager to activate and show stuff the minute you want it. You can kind of like schedule stuff to show up on the live site by using the control visibility. And you can also hide the table layout in case you don't want people touching it. And most important, we're going to have over here permissions and privacy. So every collection has a specific permission, and this is important, especially when we're working with the different data set modes that we're going to see in a bit. Essentially, each collection can do one thing or another. So you can either show content, meaning every content that you have in there, it's going to display on the site. You can also use a collection to collect content. So maybe you have some input fields, kind of like creating a form, and you want people to fill that out. And for it to go into the collection, you can do that. Or you can go into the advanced mode and really have that flexibility of defining who is going to be able to view that information, who's going to be able to add information on that collection, update and delete. So in this specific one, I'm just going to keep as show content, but you always have the option of defining exactly who is going to do what on that collection. And this is super important to make sure that everything works. Under troubleshooting, you guys will notice that this is a big part of troubleshooting, is making sure that your collection has the right permissions. So for this example, let's just skip to show content to everyone. And from here, we can already get a sense of how the collection works. I can move around my columns to organize it better if I need to. And you guys will see, like I mentioned before, we already have some vessels ready. So let's go ahead, now that we learned a little bit about the collections, let's go ahead and jump into the site and start binding some of that data. I'm going to close the collections options in here. And you guys should see on your site this little area here where you have some repeaters that are already pre-designed. What I want to do, it's kind of like recreate what we have on the site here. So you see that on the homepage, I have essentially every vessel showing up. So I want to go ahead and make that connection of collections of vessels to the front end elements. So let's select the repeater. And you guys should see over here on the top, this option of CMS connections. Let's go ahead and click on it. And it's going to ask me for the middleman. I need to make the connection between the collections and the front end elements. So let's add a data set for that. And the collection that I want to target at this point is going to be the vessels, right? Because we're going to show all the vessels that I have available. So make sure you select the vessel collection. And you see here every piece of text and image that I'll be able to connect. I'm going to connect the image to the image that I have on the collection. And you see that I have some text here that is actually going to stay static and some text is going to stay dynamic. So I want to keep, for example, the guest text static. My God, this was like a tongue twister. And I want to change the number. So let's go ahead and select number only and connect this to the number of guests on my collection. I can select the location and connect to the location title. The bedrooms, I'm going to connect to the number of bedrooms. The price, I'll connect to the price option. And the vessel name, I'm going to connect to the title. We can do a little preview just to make sure everything is working, that we have all the data that we need in there. And you see that as I hover over, I get all that information from the site. Cool. However, this is our home page and it's the main page that we have. And you can see here that I'm essentially loading every vessel. And in terms of performances, this is not really ideal, right? What we want to do is load some vessels and then we can give the user the option to load more as they are researching. This is just going to improve performance. And how the heck do we do this? Let's go into the dataset settings. And under the dataset settings, you see a few options in here that are super important. First, you see what collection it's connecting to. Second, the dataset name, which I'm keeping vessels dataset. The mode, we're going to talk more about the modes when we are creating the members area. But for now, we're going to keep reading. We want to get information from the collection and display on the front end. And you see here, items per load. Again, it's not a problem to load 100 items, but maybe you don't want to do this on your first page, on your first fold, because it's going to impact performance of your site, whether you want it or not. So what I'm going to do here is remove 100 and replace it for 6 items per load. And if you want to filter the information or maybe sort by vessel from A to Z, that's something that you can also create by selecting the title and putting A to Z. This is going to kind of like sort the vessels by name. So if I go now on preview, you see I'm only loading 6 elements, but I want to be able to load more and see more of those vessels that I have in there. So with this load button here, we're also going to bind it to data. So select that button, make sure it's data bind. And you're going to see this option here of what the click action is going to be. I want the click action to load more vessels. So just go ahead and select load more. And what this is going to do is initially load those 6 vessels. But the minute I click on load more, it's going to load another 6, as many vessels as I need to do. Okay, guys, so we kind of like got started with the data bind. We did some basics. You will notice in here, and this is kind of like a spoiler for next session, we do have this area here to filter information. So to filter, when you're using just drop-downs, it's pretty basic. You can essentially click on the drop-down, and you can select the option of filtering content, because I want to add the locations, the number of guests, the bedrooms. We are going to bind to the vessels data set, and we're going to filter by location title. If you don't want that look where it has the little title over here, you can always make adjustments and put no title. So it's going to look a little bit better. You can keep locations here. I'm going to do the same for the guests. So connecting again to the vessels data set and selecting the guest. Just going to remove the field title so it looks nice and clean. And I'll do the same for the number of bedrooms. I'll show you guys a few details with this filter that you will need to access the second part of this webinar to learn how to. But what we can do in here, let me just wrap this up, remove the title, and make sure the placeholder text is nice. Is we will have the filter working. Right now, the drop-downs are going to be working. So if I select, for example, Greek island, it's going to show me the options related to Greek island. And you'll notice right here that for Greek island, I only have 10 guests or 8 guests. So once I open that second drop-down, you will notice I'll still have all the options related to the other vessels that are not showing here right now. So that's the spoiler. Make sure you guys join for the second session, because there we're going to create the conditional logic. So that second and third drop downs only show data that it's related to what we're seeing right now. So, and for the maximum price, again, this is something we are going to need a little bit of code, and Yoav is going to run you guys through this. So make sure to go through the second session. Cool. So spoiler alerts made. We did bind the data. We did load more. We added some sorting. And now what we're going to do is start creating the pages for the destinations, the locations, and really building that site structure that we see. So first of all, let's have a look into our collections that are pre-made. You guys build with me the destinations, which is great. We already have that. So we can start with that one, and we can create the dynamic pages related to it. So how do I create dynamic pages if I'm not using the presets? You guys will notice that whenever you access your collections, you have those 3 dots right here. And this is where you can create a dynamic page for that specific collection. So starting with the destinations, we're going to go from the top to the bottom. We are going to create both a list view and an item page. Again, the list page is going to be essentially every destination. We're just going to add that later into one of our menus to improve the user experience and making sure that they have access to everything. Let me do a quick refresh. Publish. I'll do a quick refresh, just make sure we have a fresh editor because I kept this open for a while now. And again, what we're gonna do is create the destinations page, and we're gonna start relating data to it. So we can kind of like have both destination, location, and vessel collections interact with each other. We're gonna use specific fields to create that interaction between the collections. So let's go ahead and give it another try. I'm gonna access again the destination collection. Oops. And we're gonna create that dynamic page. Let's try doing the list page again. Oh. Let's try doing another page. Let me know on the chat if you guys got this going for you on your end. Same error. Still glitch because of access limitations. How funny. I tested this morning, we're super working. Okay, let me do this then, guys. I'm gonna try to create one for the locations just to make sure it's not a problem with the AI collection we just made. So let's try creating a location page over there. Oh, no, nothing working. Let me do a refresh. Open code support. Yeah, probably do. I'm on Chrome. Let me open again.
Vicky, wouldn't be a demo session without at least one little error, right?
Of course. Yes, and Cecile agree. I'm gonna try again. Let me open a new editor and I'm gonna refresh again because this is all about it. Yes, we're working on the team. Thank you, Juliana. Welcome to our live. Correct, Santiago. I'm gonna do, you guys did a refresh to check if it works. Maybe the refresh is gonna help. Refreshing is always good, starting with a fresh page.
In terms of where everyone's at so far at this point in the session, obviously error or not, wonder if we can get a reaction in the chat, or I did turn on the reactions button. If we could get a thumbs up if we feel like we're so far caught up at this point, or if we're feeling a little bit farther behind, let us know.
Let me try this one here. Let me try the location. Let's see if this one works. Fingers crossed. No, none of them working. Let me try another account. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna try on my private account. And then if you guys don't get to follow along, what we'll do is we're gonna share the recording with you guys. So after this bug and glitch is recovered, we can go ahead and try again. So let me do a quick login into my private account and hope for the best. Oh, yours created a dynamic page? That's funny, Nat. Mine actually didn't. So let's see what happened. Oh, good. And Cecile, I'm happy to hear on your end is working. That's nice. Okay. Let's check what we have here. Adding the CMS. I'm gonna recreate the destinations one real quick, just for the sake of the example. Actually, total destinations. And if anything, it's fine because we can jump into the, also we have already some pages that are done that we can use. So I'm just gonna change this one here for adventure, exploration, and we have essentially the collections we need. Let me see if we can go ahead and build the dynamic pages now, hoping for the best. If not, what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into the members area and we're gonna start creating the structure from there. So guys, I still have a glitch. I'm gonna check if the pages are, okay, so we created the page. That's good news. I have the destination list. Now I need to create the destination item page. So let me go ahead and again, create that dynamic page. It's probably gonna give me the error, but as you guys saw, it's popping still on the page end. So we can go into the side pages and find that information there. Wee-hee! It doesn't work, but it works. So it's just kind of like a glitch to get me out of my zone, which is fine. So let's go into the yacht rental destinations. And you guys see that it's gonna bring like this pre-design that we don't want to use right now. So what I'll do on this section, I'm gonna delete this entire section. I'm gonna add a blank one. And I'm gonna drop some of those assets that we talked about earlier. So if you go into CMS webinar, you should see item page title option. You can go ahead, drag and drop that. And again, we can connect the data to the dynamic page. So the image is gonna connect to the image, the description to the description that we just created, and the title to the title of that location that we created. So we have the destination page, but inside of that destination page, I still want to see the locations that are related to it. And to create this relationship, we need to use a specific field on our collection. So let's go into the collections. We're going to select the destinations. And in here, we're going to create a new field. So whenever you're creating a new field, each column, it's going to have a specific field. This kind of like relates to what you're going to connect to in the front end. So we have text, URL, numbers, tags, Boolean, reference. But what we're going to use today is multi-reference field. What this means is that each destination is going to fetch information from that locations collections that we saw earlier, and we're going to be able to put them all together. So let's go into multi-reference. This is going to be a multi-reference for locations. And I'm going to refer to that locations that we talked about earlier. So go ahead and select locations. And you should have this field here. I'm just going to move it closer to the destination so we can kind of like add all the locations that are related to each destination. So for Caribbean, I'm gonna have Turks and Caicos. I'm gonna have the Cayman Islands, and I'm gonna have the Bahamas. For the Mediterranean, I'm gonna have Amalfi Coast, I'll have French Riviera, and I'll have the Greek Islands. For my tropical escape, I'm gonna put the Indonesia, Maldives, and Thailand. And for exploration, I'm gonna select Alaska, Antarctica, and Galapagos. What I'm doing is I'm creating the relationship between those two collections. And this is what's going to help us create that site structure with essentially one dynamic page. I know it's tough getting that dynamic page there, but now that we have it, let's make the most out of it. So I'm going to add a new section in here. And we are going to, again, use an asset. So go ahead and get the destination page body. And what I want to do in here is, right now I'm on destinations page, but I want to have the location information. This means I need an extra data set. So let's go into view all page data sets. We're going to add the location data set. And from here, we're going to start binding that data again. So the image is going to bind to the location image. The title is going to, again, everything here is going to bind into the locations. So the title, the description, and the button we are going to connect later because we need to have the page structure to connect all the dots together. But if you guys notice something here, we are going to have not only the Caribbean paradise, but also Greek islands, French Riviera, Amalfi Coast, Galapagos. I'm showing every location, and I don't want to show every location. I only want to show the locations that are related to the destination page. So for this, we're going to go into the locations dataset settings, and we're going to add a filter in there saying that the locations destinations need to match whatever page destination I'm looking at that moment. The minute I add that filter, you're going to notice that for Caribbean, it's only going to show Caribbean. For exploration, it's only going to show the locations related to explorations. Mediterranean, only showing stuff related to the Mediterranean. And total escape, tropical escape, only showing the tropical places. So this is essentially how you build that structure of two levels on one page. You add that extra data set, you filter that information, and then you can create another page and filter it even more. So we have our destinations with the locations. Now we need to create the locations page. So again, wish me luck with this. I'm going to go into the Wix app collections, select the locations, and I'm going to add the dynamic page for item. So once I add the item page, we should get the error again, but the page should be there, so it's fine. Let's go into the pages. And you see over here the location item page. I'm going to essentially do the same thing we did before, and this time relating locations to vessels. So let's go ahead and delete the section. I'm going to drop in both the title for this page, and I'm also going to drop in here on the bottom a repeater for the vessel. So you guys should see the locations body over here on your assets. You can go ahead and replace this section that we have below. And same thing here. The structure is going to be of selecting first locations and binding the data for images, for descriptions, and for the title. And then below, I want to show vessels. Again, what do we need to do? You guys probably already know this. Add that second data set for the vessels this time. And it's going to show all the vessels. We don't want to show all the vessels. So what we need to do, it's connect to vessels. We can bind again the images of the repeater, the text, and so on. But the most important thing is going to be right here, where we're going to essentially tell these data sets of the vessels that I don't want to see all vessels. I only want to see the vessels that are on the location as same as the location that I'm looking at right now. And again, this is done by using those reference fields that we talked about earlier. So the collections that already came ready, they already have that multi-reference field creating that connection between the collections. And you can create multiple steps. Once you do this, you can go back into the destinations list, for example, where you have all the destinations. From here, let's say I want to jump into that specific destination. You'll be able to click on the button and connect this to the destination item page. So I'm creating the structure with essentially 2 or 3 dynamic pages, and this is going to make the site super fast to build. So let's go ahead and jump into the destination item. From here, I'm going to connect into the locations page. So you see here an option as I click on the button where I can connect to location item. So this is essentially building that structure so we can easily navigate on the site. You can go on the preview and you see that I can access the destinations. From there, I'll be able to jump into the locations. And then from the locations, I have the vessels that are only related to that specific location. So that's essentially the structure. What we're gonna do now, is jump a little bit into the area where we have the members area. So we can have somebody essentially come in, create their own vessel, check their own vessel, and if they made any mistakes, they can delete and edit that data. And for this, we're gonna use member area pages. Like I mentioned before, some of them are already done. We're gonna start by listing that information. So let's go ahead and jump into the list your vessels. And to be able to list your vessel, you need to use input fields. The input fields, that's an important detail. They only show up after you either use CMS or add the Velo code to your site. So once you turn developer mode on, it's going to show the input fields, or when you do CMS, you're going to see this option here. And what I'll do is I'll just add some text input so we can kind of like create the vessel name, all that information. So we can go ahead and add on the phone number. I'm just going to make sure that this doesn't have a field title, phone number, using placeholder. Okay. Here, yeah, we can keep the placeholder. I'm going to put, this is going to be for vessel name. And then I'm going to duplicate this field in here so we can add the vessel name, the bedrooms, the guests, the price, and all that information that we need. So just use Command D. And we can rename this for guests, for bedrooms. And I'm going to need one for price. And for the locations, I don't want people to pick random locations. There are specific locations that I want them to use. So what I'll do in here, instead of using the text input, I'm going to use a dropdown so I can connect with the locations. And this is going to be location. And anytime you are working with data and you need to submit information, you do need a couple of buttons, right? So we are gonna need both one for putting the image. So you guys will see here that we have this upload button option that we're gonna add. And we just need any standard button that you guys wanna use to be able to submit that information. I have a cute one that I saved here on the assets. So if you guys want to use this, you can. I'm just going to rename over here to submit. And I'm going to stack this. Otherwise, it's going to get way too messy. So let's make sure we stack everything. I'll quickly align my stack and place it in the center. And this is what we're going to use to submit data into that collection that we created. Again, if you check the permissions, you will notice that for the vessels collection, I have a member generated permission. So members can send information into this collection, and so everybody can have a look. So let's go ahead and add a data set. And this time we're going to be working with not only the vessel collections, but we're going to be switching some modes of those data sets. You see an alert in here saying that it's saying read. Let's go into the data set settings and make sure we change this mode into write, because I want to put information into that collection essentially. So once you switch this, the connector that we have is essentially changing the direction that it works. Instead of fetching information from the collection and displaying on the front end, it's fetching information from the front end and submitting it into the collection. And then from here, we can just simply connect the information. So first value, it's going to connect to title. Second one, it's going to connect to the vessel guests. Third one, it's going to connect to the vessel's bedrooms. This one is going to connect to the vessel's price. This one, it's going to collect content from vessels, and it's going to put under the locations. We can also connect the vessel's images. And the action on this one is going to be vessels submit information. Make sure you always add the success and failure messages, because this is essentially the only way you know if the submission actually went or not. And you want to give this feedback in terms of the experience to your user, making sure that he's not submitting several things with no reason. So once we do this, we should be able to come in here and say, I have the Vicotti vessel. If it's 10 guests, has 5 bedrooms, the price, it's expensive. Okay, put more zeros there. And the location, I'm gonna get Bahamas because this is where I feel having a vacation right now. And we can upload an image. I have my yacht here ready. I'm gonna submit this information. And we should see this information already popping up into our vessel collection. So if I go into vessels, I have my Vicotti vessel right here with all that information that we just filled out. Cool. Now we need to give also the user that it's accessing that information the option of looking at that information. So what we're going to do is jump into the view your vessels. And for this one, don't worry, there won't be a lot of building. We are actually going to use the layout to table to make sure we can look at all the vessels that we added in here. So I'm going to add the table in here and stretch it. I'm going to, again, add a data set. This time is just looking at the information. So it's going to have the read mode. And the table is very nice because you can easily add the columns of the informations that you want to display in there. So if I want to see the title, the image, the number of guests, I can easily just add that with the click of 2 buttons. And it's already going to be kind of like structured. Now put the price too. Price, where are you? Here. And I have a problem now. I'm seeing everything. I don't want to see everything. I only want to see the vessels that yes, the table is going to work well on mobile as well. I only want to see the elements that I added. I don't want to see everybody else's. This is a members area, right? I want to list. I want to see my listings, my vessels, and I want to be able to only edit my vessels and not everybody else's. So how do we create this filter again? So selecting the vessels, let's go into the data set. And you see here right now that I have, again, every vessel. I want to filter this time using a different filter. It's going to be the owner filter. So owner is logged in, it's the filter that it's gonna show only the vessels that I created. So once I do this, I should only see here the Vicoche vessel. You guys should see that on your end. I had to jump into my work account, so you will see everything I added previously, unfortunately. But once you add this filter, it's only gonna show everything that the owner added. In this case, I still see everything because I was the one that made this template. So all the vessels I added myself. And you know this because once you go into the collection and check the vessels, you will notice, again, like I showed you how to manage the fields. If you check the owner, the ID for all the owners is the same in here. So meaning I added myself all of them, so I get to see all of them myself. Cool. But you guys should only see what you added. And then we have the last option, guys. We're about to kind of like cover most of it. It's gonna be the option of editing the vessels. So again, what we wanna do is connect the data that we have in here, but this time we're gonna work with a different mode for the data set. Instead of working with the read or the write, which we already work with, we're gonna change the data set settings to read and write. What does read and write mean? Is essentially modifying data, editing the data that you have. So once we do this, we're gonna have the option of changing the data that we already have. So I'll go ahead and connect over here the title, the number of guests, the number of bedrooms, the location, gonna be collect, locations. I'll add the price and the image. And you can already see here the first item of that collection. And if you need to add a new item, remove the item, edit, change, you can do this using that information in here. And we have also here on the bottom a few buttons that are gonna help us create a new item, delete the items that we have, revert any changes that we made. And those are also super simple to connect. So on the button here, you will see the option of creating a new one. We can undo changes. So if I created any changes, I can go ahead and revert. If I need to submit that information, I'm gonna use save, it's gonna be submit. And for deleting, you're gonna see the option here to delete that information. Those options are gonna pop up once you have that read and write dataset mode. And I also have two buttons in here just so I can switch between the elements that I'm looking at. So you'll be able to connect those into the previous and next item. So I'm gonna set this one with next item and this one with previous. Not previous page, but previous item. And last but not least, I am gonna connect also this table in here. Why did I add a table in here? Because the table is actually gonna help us select the elements that we wanna make changes to. So let's say if I wanna change the Paradise Seeker, I can come in here and say that it has 20 guests and I can save that information and you can see how it automatically updates in here. So this is essentially creating like an area where you can make changes to the data that you created. And the table helps you with that selection in case you don't want to move between the elements using previous and next. You can use that to kind of like select the elements that you want to create. Now you're probably asking yourself, Vicky, why did you create 3 pages, one for each data set, just to be quick and easy for everybody to understand? You can create this members area where you can add, change information all in one page, and you just need to add several data sets. I just separated it so you guys can understand the functionality of each one, how one it's gonna do one thing, the other is gonna submit data, the other is gonna kind of like rewrite the data that you have, but you can build this on one page if you need. And now that you guys understand how this works, you will notice there is even an option that you can use. So on your collections, you do have here for when you're adding dynamic pages, you have this manage content page. This is kind of like a preset. pretty similar to what we have here, but you need to understand the mechanics behind it to be able to use this page. So again, if you need to use this page, you can add the filter of logged in user, and this is gonna allow the person not to make changes on everybody else's vessels. Okay, cool. So we checked this. I just have a few more things to do on the site. So we did create some of the dynamic pages already for the, let me go here on pages, for the yacht rental, the destinations, and so on. Again, you can create more levels of that by just adding a dynamic item page and using multiple data sets. And you can link that information into your menu. So I would come here into this edit menu. I'm just gonna add here for navigation purposes, like site page. And you can select which pages you wanna add. So maybe you wanna work with the dynamic pages and show like all the destinations. I can connect over here to destination list and say that this is explore all destinations. And as a bonus, so we can kind of like wrap up this webinar, I want to show you guys this new menu option here that I think it's pretty cool. You see that on the home page, we have this main menu. Right now, I just put as a placeholder, doesn't have anything inside of it. So if you have a look at the menu itself, it's blank. But what we can do in here is drag pages and create a drop down to go straight into those dynamic pages. And this is like a feature that I think was released last week or something. It's like super, super new. So whenever you add a menu and you see over here that it says just menu, not horizontal menu or not anything else, you should have the option of going in here and creating a drop down. In this case, I already created a drop down in here, and then you can add the site pages that you want to be inside of that drop down. So in my case, I want to work with the yacht destinations. I'm going to add those to my menu. You see here that it kind of like popped two drop downs because I had a placeholder drop down. So what I'll do is essentially just delete the first one that I had. Keep this one of destinations, and I'm going to add it because this name is way too big. Wait, let me rename it to destinations. Cool. So now it looks decent. If it's on two columns right here, and this is not the look that you want, it's fine. What you can do is go into the layout, and then under drop down, you should have an option in here to select the number of columns. You can adjust the looks and feel. And what I love about this new option is that we do have these animation packages with the little wave. And this totally matches my vibe right now, where I need to get this yacht rental and go to Bahamas. So this kind of like wraps up the design essentially. You guys will learn how to do the locations, the number of guests, the number of bedrooms, and the max price on the next session, how to make sure that all those filter options, they can have the conditional logic to it. And just make sure you guys join for the next session. I hope you guys enjoy. We went through some ups and downs, but I think if you guys have time afterwards to rewatch and do it on your own pace, you will learn how to create this structure. And I promise you, this is gonna save you so much time. So to wrap up, you guys already built everything. We can go over a few applications. So if you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to do a yacht rental, Vicky, I need to do something else. You can use this on your own site for your portfolio. If you need to update any client work that you did, you don't want to go into the editor and build all that stuff. You can access all that information via dashboard and update there. If you need to secure the design on your site, whenever you have user-generated content, when you're creating custom forms, if you need directories, listing, and even integrating with the Wix applications, which we didn't cover today, but this is a super topic that you guys might see moving forward, go ahead and use CMS. Also for creating custom stores, booking pages, this is the best. And the top takeaways are here. Always use the logged in user filter to display specific content, user content. You can use reference and multi-reference fields because they are going to power the relationship between those collections that you have. And mapping out everything it's important before you start. And just make sure you use the power of dynamic pages. If I catch any of you guys here with 100 static pages on your site, you guys will hear directly from me, okay? So make sure you're not adding, if the design is the same, set up CMS and use that because it's just gonna save you so much time and it's gonna be way better for SEO, performance, and everything else. So don't do 100 static pages on your site. Promise. I wanna see on the chat the little promise here. That's it, guys. I'll open up for questions, I guess, on the QA, yeah?
Yeah, thank you, Vicky. That was just absolutely incredible. I think everyone here who's joined is really kind of seeing the power of CMS. You know, I saw a couple of comments in there saying, wow, you know, the functionality or usability of CMS has come a long way. Can't wait to try it. So yeah, I mean, I think just really exciting and really, really helpful. I know as partners, you spend a lot of time within the editor, a lot of time building for clients, updating sites for clients. So we are really excited to hear your feedback about how this is helping you increase how quickly you're able to build sites, the robustness of however you're able to build sites. Yeah, I think I'll probably run through a little bit of the chat and just to make sure that we have
Well, one
everyone's
from
questions.
Juliet. Juliet, this is also available on Classic. Go for it, girl. Find that shortcut, add CMS, and test it out. It's essentially the same thing.
Yep, let's see here. It looks like most of our Q&A questions were answered. Let's see if we have any more in addition. Yeah, if I didn't mention it already, we will be sharing the recording out to everyone that's joined us today. That way you'll be able to kind of build at your own speed. I know it can kind of get overwhelming, but again, this is something that is really worth investing your time in and actually being able to leverage this for clients, leverage this for your own agency site, making sure you're able to create quickly and easily. It looks like David had one question. Is there any plans to be able to add fields to the Wix products CMS? Looks like Courtney might be answering that.
Yeah, so I didn't cover this today, guys, but I'll show you like very quickly, the super cool tool that we have is that when you go into the collections and you manage your collections, and this is advanced, we can probably cover this on the next advanced session, but under the advanced settings, you can actually turn on the Wix app collections. And if you have stores, bookings, not all Wix applications work with this, but most of them do, you will be able to access that information on the CMS. It's gonna pop up in here. I do have members, so you can see some of my members' data. One important detail to mention is that anything that is working with the Wix app collections is not like the collections we just saw where we can come in, put the data we want, and make all the changes that we want. Those collections, they are gonna come with a read-only mode. You can only work taking information from that collection and displaying on the front end. So you cannot use that to add more fields to stores, for example. You are gonna work with the store collections and what the store collection has available, and you'll be able to display that on the front end. So just like we build the category pages and stuff like this, you can use the Wix app collection to also create your own category pages and design. It's gonna be completely however you want. Like you are not stuck with using the widgets from stores in that situation. You can create the category pages with your own design, with your own looks. Again, just adding one data set of the Wix collections. And then below, you're gonna add one of the Wix products and do the exact same thing we did here today. Filter products by collection. So it only shows the products related to that collection. Essentially the same logic, really just working with the CMS Wix app collections elements. Right here, I don't have stores installed, but if you had the stores installed on your site, you would see stores in here, and you would be able to have a look at those collections, which again, most of the time they're going to be on a read-only basis. Doesn't mean you can update your store prices through CMS. Don't expect that to happen. You still need to make the updates of products and everything via the Wix store application on the dashboard. Hope that answered.
Let's see a couple of more questions here. Canute said you can have complete control over on the SEO for dynamic pages from the CMS in the settings tab. I believe that's accurate.
SEO with dynamic pages, it's honestly the best you can get, because you see here for SEO, it's gonna kind of like let you change the information for whatever name you want to use, slug you want to use over here. And then for the item page, what it's gonna let you do is select one of the variables, and you can edit this URL structure. And maybe you don't want the page to be the destination title. Maybe you want to have a specific title. You can use the variables that you have on the collection and connect this to the SEO, so it works with the SEO you want. This also goes for meta titles and meta descriptions. Those are not going to be changed here on the editor. You need to go into the dashboard to change those. So let's say you want to have a specific meta description for each dynamic page. All you need to do is add a text column on your collection, put all the metadata you want to have there. Then you're jumping into the dashboard, going into the SEO settings, and you're going to see over there dynamic pages where you can, again, use a structure very similar to this and define the variables that you want for your titles and meta titles and meta descriptions for SEO. So it does really have great functionality with SEO. And especially, I feel like it's in terms of the design, it's really keeping that consistency, and any changes that you make already happen on every page. It's not like you have 20 pages that you need to go on each one and make a change on each one and make adjustment on each breakpoint. Forget this. You make the adjustment on one dynamic page, and that's good for every item that you have on your collection. So for SEO, definitely super powerful. It's going to help you structure very easily without having to go on every page and make every setting.
Great answer, Vicky. Yeah, I think, CMS plus SEO is really just a killer combo. And seeing how easy it is to set up and really build efficiently is, again, something that I keep harping on, because, again, we want you as partners to be able to build efficiently and to build sites that are going to be really, really great for your clients. Any last questions that we can answer while we have our wonderful expert, Vicky and Courtney here? Give it another minute. Let's see here. Who just does Wix CMS fit with Wix blocks for content we want to install in similar sites?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a question for session number 2, where we're gonna have a Velo expert for sure. Yoav will be able to answer that. And he is actually gonna use, because CMS is something that you have access through when you're coding with Velo. So he's probably gonna be able to answer that one.
Yeah, yeah. And again, what we can do also is we can talk to our blocks team and make sure we get you an answer for that question. Yep, yeah, Canute, another expert in the chat. For everyone, the next session, part 2, is scheduled next week, February 27th. We're going to host that at 10 a.m. Eastern. Let's see here. Yeah, fine. I'll be there for next session. Yes. Yeah, so we have let me drop our RSVP link into the chat. Again, I want to make sure that everyone can attend that wants to. Really quickly, I'll toss that in. But yes, it'll be, again, about an hour and a half February 27th, led by, again, our Wix experts. So make sure that you definitely join that session. It's going to be very helpful for understanding part 2 of our puzzle here. Again, Vicky's done an incredible job getting everybody up to speed here. The RSVP link I've just dropped in the chat. So please, yes, sign up for that. Again, that session will be recorded as well. So I guess if there are no other kind of final questions, let me just check the Q&A one last time. Yeah. If you have questions about today's session, feel free to reach out to your success manager. We'll also be able to help answer questions. And yeah, again, we'll send out the recording. We'll send out the website that has the template and assets on it. So if you weren't able to start along with us and you joined in after, you'll be able to follow along. We will be picking up part 2 from where we're leaving off with on part 1. So if you didn't get to the end of creating everything that we built out today, I think including those members areas, I would recommend doing that before next week. Just to wrap it up, Vicky, thank you so much for leading us today. Courtney, for making sure that we could get all those questions answered. I'm our program manager, Connor. I don't know if I introduced myself in the beginning, but we'll be having more of these sessions as time comes. And just keep an eye out for next week. We will be excited to see everyone for part 2. Awesome. Everyone have a good afternoon, good rest of your day, and looking forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.